Hi everyone, Diane here, welcome to my studio, and today we are going to be painting some whimsical birds. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from the normal whimsical birds. Here on my desk right now I have got a little collection, you could call it a flock, of birds which I did a few months ago. These ones here are just about as, what would you call them, just about as fierce as could be. I don't know, they look pretty aggressive to me. But anyway, these two I did yesterday, and I think we're going to be at some point putting these ones up as a short, excuse me, so you'll be able to see me doing those. But I felt today as if what I wanted to do, I should just pop these away out of here, out of the way. I felt I wanted to do something a little bit more, well, let's say traditional, verging on realistic, but really only slightly. And so what I've got here, I'm going to try to reproduce these ones, which I did just now. And if you were to follow this video, this tutorial, and do all the things that I do to make these birds happen, you would basically learn everything you need to know in order to be confident with all the skills that you need in watercolor. How about that? So this is a 10-minute tutorial, well, it'll be a bit more than that, how to paint watercolor from zero to hero. So let's get started with that. I am going to be painting these on one to a page. So this is a 5x7 pad block of hot pressed 100% cotton MEEDEN watercolor paper, acid free, so it doesn't make the colors go yellowish. So I'm going to do one bird per page. So if you wanted to do a little flock of these and put each one in a separate frame or turn them into greetings cards or something like that, you would be able to do that fairly easily. I'm using my Michael Harding watercolors here, but any paints will do. There's no reason to be in any way precious about it. Any paint will do, absolutely. They're all as good as one another now, don't tell Daniel Smith. Here I have got phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, something called verditer blue, which is a kind of slightly opaque sky blue kind of color, and then I've got lavender here. This is black, and this is what's that? That's phthalo blue. This must be what's it called? Berlin blue or something like that. Here comes the rain. I'm trying to get this in between raindrops, and if it goes bonkers in a minute, you'll know why. Anyway, so let's just keep going. Now, the first thing to do, oh yes, and this is my brush. I'm using a number 2 MEEDEN quill brush here, which we've talked about in previous recent videos, so I don't need to mention them particularly, do I? Somebody said that they have got a reduction on them on Amazon. So if you were to go to Amazon and buy them instead of to the website, you'd get a 10% reduction. Although if you go to the website, you can use Diane 15 and get a 15% reduction on whatever you buy from there. So you have you pay your money and you take your choice, as they say in England. Right, now, so for the first thing that we need to do, I'm not going to put any background on these, and I'm not going to put not even anything for them to stand on. We're just going to do the bird. I'm going to use a 2B pencil here to draw a rough outline. Now, you don't want to get too worried about the shape of the bird. Honestly, it really is completely unnecessary to freak out over this, because somewhere in nature there will be a bird shaped just like yours. So we'll just do a sort of little kind of crescent moon type shape for the top of the head, and then we're going to come down the back in a curve, any kind of curve, and then we'll just pop some feathers out the back there for the tail. We'll sort of indicate where the beak is going to be, and the eye is going to be in line with the beak like that. So where the point is, take a line into the head and put the eye in line with that point of the beak. That's basically what looks right. Anyway, it might not be botanically, it might not be completely ornithologically correct, but it's good enough. Then we just do a nice round tummy. And if you're not happy about drawing to the extent that you don't think that you can manage this, then just go to our website, dianeantone.com, and you'll be able to find the sketches there for this and many others. Now, I'm just going to take away some of those lines that I've put there in my sketchiness. I'll take those away with my kneadable eraser. Everyone needs one of these. They're so good, actually. I'd been using an ordinary eraser for ages, and I'd forgotten just how good these were, because the ordinary one, you know, when you rub things out, it kind of leaves lots of bits of rubber all over the place. But these, they're not like that. We used to have a printing business years and years ago, and I mean years ago when I was very young, before even my children were born. My then husband was involved in a small printing firm that they had started, and we were introduced to these kinds of things then, and nobody would use anything else but a kneadable eraser. That was what you had to have. So, yeah, I should be loyal to tradition, shouldn't I? Now I'm going to wet my brush, and then I'm just going to fill the shape that I've made with water quite liberally. I'm not going to hold back on how much water I use, but we'll just pop that in, and being as it's hot press paper, it's not going to absorb it as much as cold press paper does, but that's actually what we want. That's why I'm using hot press. And then I'm going to do the bit which I enjoy. I like doing this, and I hope you do too. We'll pick up some of this Berlin blue, I think this is Berlin blue, on our brush, and you can see where I'm mixing it on my palette. I'm using my big palette today. There's plenty of space. I don't need most of that space. So we just touch the paint with a little bit of water, which makes it activate. And then we want that reasonably, I'm whooshing it around just for the sake of doing something, but you don't really need to do this at all. I've noticed other people doing it as if it was of some great significance, but it isn't. But there we are anyway. So I'm going to start with the top of the head, and I'm just going to, I'm not painting, I'm dropping paint in. This is what I was calling, when we did this before, a drop wash. So you just drop that in along the top edge, if you like, or anywhere else. You can put it here as well, into the tail. And then what you can do, if you want to, is you can just tip your paper around a bit and let that spread out a bit. If you don't feel confident about doing that, don't do it. Okay? That way you get a little bit more randomness. And I'm one of those people that finds it actually quite hard. I do struggle with randomness. I don't really, but I do when it comes to paint. I'm a bit I need I like straight lines, so I try to make everything, but it's best if you don't, because with today's modern watercolor, you don't want that effect. You want it to be, what's the word? Deconstructed. That'll do. So I'm just dropping in now some dots, not painting, just dropping, okay? And leaving gaps as well. Cat's just come in. I bet he's wet.
He is. He's drying himself from me.
Oh, great. There's a towel over there, Arthur. Now you've made Tamsin wet, you can go out again. He's a pickle. Oh, talking about cats, here's a thing. We have a cat called Oriole. I don't know if you've met him. You've probably seen him in videos. He's black and white. If you're ever thinking of getting a cat, my advice would be do not get a black and white cat, because they do love to pick fights. Of course, Oriole 2 nights ago decided to go out and pick a fight with a neighbouring cat, one of those ones that wanders around looking for trouble, you know, that kind of cat. Well, anyway, he really met his match, because I think if Tamsin hadn't separated them, there's a good chance that he might have been an ex-cat. And he's come in covered in holes. He's blood everywhere. And oh dear. Yes. So don't get a black and white cat. The others, we've got 5, and none of the others has ever been in any kind of fight unless it was with him. So I've covered this with measles, and I'm going to now put in some drops of water, right? Now just be a little bit careful that you don't go too bonkers, but the idea is to give that paint room to breathe, and then just sort of smush it around just a little bit, as if you're making a pancake. You should give it a shake, like that. This is wet in wet par excellence, so to speak. So we're going to let that dry. I'm not going to put a hairdryer on it, because if I do, it'll blow the paint all over the place, and I actually want it to stay where I put it, more or less. I'm going to put in a couple more dark dots, just because it's fun, and you can see those dark dots spreading out and exploding. I'm hoping that this will stay nice and dark, and then so this is so easy and so fun, and actually quite relaxing, because you can't really go wrong, can you? You're not going to be worrying whether or not this portrait of your best friend's dog is going to actually resemble Fido. You're not going to be worrying whether or not you've got that telegraph pole over there on the other side of the road vertical so it doesn't look like it's falling down. You're not going to worry whether or not the sea horizon level is straight or whether it's got a hump in the middle of it. None of this is anything you need to worry about whatever with this kind of painting. It's all relaxation. So in order to carry on while this dries, because I think that might take a bit of a while since it's swimming in water, I'm going to put that over there, and I'll get another block of paper. So here we go. This is another one. I need my knife to get this open. And for those of you who haven't bought MEEDEN's blocks yet, I'll go through the whole rigmarole with you right now of how to get into it, because it's all nicely sealed up in plastic so tightly that it's hard to even get a knife in. But I learnt a trick today. For the first time, I haven't broken a fingernail getting in here. I just took a big fish knife and pressed down quite hard, and I was able to puncture the plastic. So there we are. You learn something new every day. 71 years to learn how to take off the plastic wrapping. All right. Inside, you have your block, which is covered with a sheet of pink paper for protection. Don't paint on this. What you do with that is you take it off. Where it says open, it doesn't only mean open sesame, remove the pink. It also means, look here, this is where you detach your sheet when you have painted on it. You take your fish knife or something equivalent, any kind of knife will do actually, but not a sharp one. And then you have to get your fingernail in there. You separate, you get your fingernail in there, if you can, if you've got any fingernails, unlike me. Then you put your knife in there, and then you just run the knife round the outside edge, and you break the glue, which is all the way around the outside, and your piece of paper comes free. You do that after you've done your painting, because having it all glued down around the outside edges stops it from cockling or buckling or whatever word you use to describe what happens when you put a lot of water onto a piece of watercolour paper. So I'll use that one later, but for now it's over there. So now we're ready to roll. Every now and again, you have to run a knife around the outside edge to get off the extra glue which remains when you've taken off that sheet. And the next one, when you've done about 3, you're going to get a bit of a ridge around the outside edge, and you have to cut the glue off, or at least I always do anyway, because I don't like the feeling of that. So that's what I tend to do. Okay, so now for the second one that we're going to do, I'm going to do a different style. I think we might do one of my Angry Birds here. While we're waiting for him to dry. How are you doing? Are you okay? I think you're going to take about an hour to dry, aren't you? We'll come back this afternoon and finish him probably. Shall we do this Angry Bird? I think he looks rather... Oh, shall we do this one? Let me ask Tamsin, which one does she think we should do? She's sitting here quietly getting on with something important, unlike me. Tamsin, which one shall I try to replicate?
The one on the left that's looking up.
This one?
Into the sky.
That one?
Yeah.
Doing basically the same as that, so it's a different style in the same pose.
Okay, that was an accident, but yes.
Why not? Okay, same as this then.
Why not?
Okay.
I think he's cute.
Well, I'm sure he thinks he's cute too, like all men. Okay, so we'll do this one. I don't mind at all which one. It's easy to make a decision when someone else does it, isn't it? So this one, the way we're going to do this, we will draw a circle. Please don't tell me you can't draw a circle. If you can't draw a circle, find something you can draw around, like a cup or something. You can put your coffee cup on there, draw around the outside edge, and that will give you a circle, obviously. So we draw a circle, and then we'll just pop in the tail here. Okay, and then his beak is over here. Again, these will be, the sketches will be available. I'll put a couple on one sketch when they're finished and put them up on the website. And so there we are. And then his wing indication will be something like that. And his legs. Oh, here's a thing. I want to recommend that you go to my Pinterest. I've never recommended that you go to my Pinterest before because I've always had a bit of a bad relationship with Pinterest. I've never been able to understand how to make it work. But I think they've done something. They've changed the format of the way it's laid out. And it seems to me that it's easier now to see. And also, thing is, if you go to my Pinterest, you will see on there a collated set, a whole load of boards that I collected together before the advent of the brave new world, which is AI. Now, if you go to Pinterest, you will find most of the pictures there are artificial intelligence created. If you go to my Pinterest, you will find on my particular saved set, many which are actually painted, strangely enough, by humans. Oh gosh, there's so many things I want to say. I was listening to the radio today and they were talking about, I'm going to carry on with this while I'm talking about Elon Musk launching his giant rocket, which is eventually going to go to the moon and then he thinks hopefully to Mars. And the reporter said the rocket was successfully launched and one day they're hoping that it will carry humans to the moon. And I'm like, what? I have never heard anyone say that before. Carry humans to the moon? Not people? Yeah. I've just picked up a little bit of pink here. This is something like, this is opera pink, and I'm just going to put some opera pink here. What I'm doing this time is not painting wet in wet. I'm going to paint wet on dry, and I'm going to very delicately try to make these colours blend with one another. So we'll just do it like this, okay? I can't even describe how to do that, but you want much more water in relationship to the paint than we had in the previous one, which was quite intense. And for this one, yeah, we want less. So I've put the lavender at the top here. This is opera pink. And then I've got very pale aqua green here. These are, as I said, the Michael Harding colours. And that's one of the ones that is special to them, aqua green, but it's really something like phthalo turquoise, I think. So we've just got the 4 colours there. We'll let that dry. When that's dry, we'll come in and put a second layer of colour in there. And so we'll be doing some layering. And then I'm just going to paint the tail in blue and we'll let that dry. And the thing I wanted to say about the legs, which I got distracted by Mr. Musk's rockets and various other things, was that lots of people that draw this kind of whimsical bird on online, they put the legs coming down straight, more like this, which is a style, and that's fine, but I tend to prefer to put my legs in a little bit more of a realistic way, but it's entirely up to you what you do with the legs. It's perfectly acceptable to make them look like this one here, or this one. That's a bit more real because they're sort of apart. Because if you look at birds, you'll notice they very rarely stand with their knees together. But it looks quite cute when you do that like that. So we've now come to the point at which I'm going to have to briefly stop, go and do lunch and wait for these 2 to dry and see what happens when we come back and we do the next step. I might just put the very pale beginnings of a beak in here. This is Jaune Brilliant I'm going to use for this beak, because it's large and pale. So that's Jaune Brilliant from Holbein. And we'll make that a little bit darker in the second go round. Okay, so I'm quite excited to see how this one turns out when it's dry. And oh yes, I'm looking forward to this afternoon, so I'll see you shortly. Okay, we're back from lunch and we're going to get started again now. Sorry about the noise of the rain in the distance. I'll stop recording if it gets any worse, but at the moment I'm just trying to fit in between the raindrops. Okay, so this one was the first one that we did, and you can see how the dropped in wash has mixed and mingled and left me with a lovely texture with darker areas in certain places and lighter areas elsewhere, which is going to give me a lovely background there for the wing, and also a nice light place there for the eye of the bird. And just purely by chance, he's got a little eyebrow there. You can just see that here. And that's hiding his eye, so I can pop his eye in there and use the sort of serendipity of the way the paint has fallen in order to help me construct the rest of the bird. So that's really nice. Wasn't expecting to see that little serendipitous eye poking out there, so that's good. And we'll get on with that one first. And then this one is still very much the pale background because our model that we were working from, this one, it's very pale, but I'm going to come in with a second layer in a second. And in fact, I might do that first because we have to wait for him to dry, and he might take a bit longer than that one. So looking at this one then, what do we want? We need the same colours, maybe with a slight tint of orange here in the front, just to make it a little bit warmer, because this is quite a cold pink. And then the same colours around and about, just layered over a little bit on top there. So let's see what we can do. I'll just pick up a little bit of quinacridone gold, I think, which in general is one of my favourite orangey kind of colours. So we put that with a little bit of opera pink. Let me just move this a bit closer. So we have the opera here and the quinacridone here, so just mix that to make a nice warm orange, and we'll just put that on top. And we're not trying to make anything remotely like an even wash. We want an uneven wash, and in places we'll just take the hard edge around the outside away, and in other places we'll just leave it. And then across the top we had ultramarine blue, I think is what we had on top, so we'll pick up a little bit of that, pop that over here. Maybe we had a bit of verditer in there too. Just make it nice and loose. What I should have done is I should have left a space for his eye, but I haven't, so we'll have to put some white in there with a pen, but that doesn't matter. The main thing to remember is not to try to copy exactly what you did the last time, but to watch where the paint has gone and where it's needing to go, and kind of just follow that. So you're not trying to make the exact copy, not at all. And as I said last time, we'll darken up the beak a little bit. Don't want it green actually. I'll pick up a bit more of this colour here. So we just go over the beak a little bit here, like that. Right, and now we'll leave you to dry, and you won't take long. And we'll come back to the other one here. Now, just in case I forget to do it, I'm going to do it first. I'm going to come in to the eye here, and I think got a little tiny dot there of white, but I can enhance that. So we'll put in some black like that. And then we'll go for the white. I'm in a white pen. I use a Signo, Uniball Signo for my white pens quite often because they do work quite nicely. So there we are, there's his eye highlight. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pick up some blue, reasonably strong but not too dark, mixture perhaps of Berlin blue and ultramarine. And I'm just going to, this is the shape of the wing that I'm going to enhance, and I'm just going to put some what would you call those, some more or less parallel lines in there to enhance the shape of the wing rather than painting it in solid. And then we'll come in again with the dark blue here. Perhaps I'll add a little tiny bit of black to make the blue darker. And we'll just put in some dippity-doo-dahs here, which then needs to dry. Then I'm going to clean my brush, pick up a little bit of the blue again that we used for the wing, and just put some tiny speckles on his breast, like that. Okay, and maybe I'll paint in his legs with some blue. Now we have his beak to worry about, so we'll go for orange, a soft orange, and I'm going to give him a smaller beak than I originally had drawn, so I'll just do it like that. Right, okay, so now the time has come to take my pen, I think, and this is this one actually happens to be Emma Lefebvre's Craftmo brush. This was sent to me by Craftmo as a sample of what we could expect to be putting in a giveaway. If we were doing a giveaway with Craftmo, we decided in the end not to do it, I'm afraid. But we are doing something with MEEDEN this winter, so look out for that. All right, so I'm going to now kind of embellish this a little bit. So I'm going to do an outline-ish kind of thing, if I can make it work. Are you going to work? Work, please. There we are, it's working. So I'm using a 0.1, so that's quite a fine nib. And we'll go round the bird and deliberately trying to miss the actual outline. So I'm not going to put squirrely bits around the outside like we will on the other one when we come to it. I'm just going to outline it a bit. And we'll perhaps put a little bit. I wish you could get finer than, maybe you can get 0.01. I don't know, might be able to. Anyway, that'll do. And then we'll go round the wing. A sort of scritchy, light, don't press too hard. And then perhaps we'll make those lines into feathers. Just scritchy scratchy, like that. And on here I'm going to do some little circles. Obviously you can do whatever you fancy, and we'll just put some strengthening in his legs, like that. And I'm not sure yet, I might put a few white dots in, but I might not. I'm not quite sure. This is quite... Let me try one. No, I don't think I want to do white, so I'll take those away. I don't think I want to do white, so I'll just do black on this one. And what I like about this one, let's give him just something little to stand on. What I like about this style is that it looks like a real bird. It's not been all kind of fantasized, but it's not really like a real bird. It's got our character, we the artist, have made this bird. So I'm very happy with that. I quite like him. I think he's really quite sweet. So I hope you like him too, and maybe you'll give him a try. And now we'll go over to the other one, which I hope is dry. Not quite, so I'll just whack the hairdryer on him. Now, the main thing about this one is the character is in the eye, and I'm going to use a Fudenasuki thick and thin, it's a calligraphy brush pen really, to do the eye, because as we can see from this, it's quite a large black area there, and it doesn't matter where you put it, it can go anywhere. I tend to think in terms of the line in the middle, and then I set the eye somewhere around about there. So what I'll do is do a big outline like that. and then I will fill in, but remember to leave a couple of spaces. And where you leave the lights is going to give it the character. So as you come down, you'll see the character emerge. And if what you've left doesn't look right, which it might very well not, you can always enhance it with a bit more white. So I'm going to, what I did in the other one, I just did scritchy scratchy lines all the way around the outside. I gave him or her a bit of a scratchy eyebrow. You could take the white and just enhance that a little bit. And when you finish the rest of him, you can improve on what you've done. And I'm going to go over his beak as lightly as possible with this pen. Actually, I'm going to swap to another 0.1 because that one's a bit dark. I might have, oh, here we are. Here's a 0.05. Let's try that. That might be more what I'm looking for. Yeah, that's even smaller, so that's better. All right, so we go around the outside edge. Just scribbling, really, I think you could probably say, scribbling. And we'll put his wing in here, just give him a little outline, and then, or her, and then maybe for this one, we'll do some fluffy bits on the top of the head. I like both of these birds, both of these styles, personally. But they're very different. And you can, if you're going to be giving people birds for Christmas or birthday cards or whatever, then you can choose the style of the bird that you create, can't you, to suit the person? Because some people like the more cartoony things and some people like things that are more realistic. And I know for if you've got grandchildren and things, you'll probably find that they'll respond really well to this style. Now on the other one, I said I would have to put this white in underneath the eye because I'd left that out. I'd left that. I hadn't left any white space, so I'm not going to put a great deal. I'll just put a little bit there. It doesn't have to be as much as is on that one by any means, but that gives it a little bit more dimension, doesn't it? Just a little bit more 3D. So there we are, and then we've got his legs, and I shall probably go back to the 0.1 and we'll come down here and do some scribbly legs. I'll do scribbly legs on this one because the rest of him is scribbly, so you wouldn't want to do painted straight lines. It kind of needs to match, doesn't it? And we'll just do a bit of scribble for him to stand on, or her. There we are then. So you could give a third coat if you wanted to of colour to give a little bit more density, a bit more darkness if you felt like it, but I think he's perfectly okay like that too. And I've grabbed the other one. You can see the two totally different styles there, although they're both in basically the same pose, and Tamsin chose this one for me to match this one. So if you were going to do a set, obviously if you're going to do a set and frame them all independently, you would stick with one style ideally, but you could do the same sort of style in a different pose and in different colours, and you'd have a really nice set there. Or you could put them all on one page. You could put them 1, 2, 3, one above the other, or in a row. You could have one in the middle looking forward. I've got lots of examples of birds that I've done over the last 4 or 5 years, and you can always find something there to use as inspiration. So there we are. I'm going to leave you now with those two, and also a quick look at all the others that were here. I like this one particularly too because his body came out a really, you can't see it, a really squarish kind of shape. Just by accident that happened, and I rather liked that. That was because I made a mistake here and the water took the paint out a bit further and I had to even it off. So it ended up with a bit of a square chest, but that was okay. And this one, I had aqua green at the top there, quite a lot of it, and that gave him quite a nice bright finish. So I'll put these up. I think I put them on Patreon. We'll share them to you on Patreon. Try and remember to do that. And then these were the other two that I did the other day. And there was this angry bird and this rather sad looking creature here. So I'll let you go and see you again soon. Today's Thursday and I'll see you on Saturday. So enjoy and I will see you then. Bye bye for now, everybody. Bye bye.